Okay, here we go. Hopefully this works. All right. Okay, here we go. Hopefully this works. All right, here we are. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Space Engineers. We're currently back to building the Missouri. Now, we had a whole bunch of work done over here. Let me show you what's happening at the moment. Built this and figured out where all the guns were going to go. And then after doing all that work and figuring out where the actual guns were going to go, went back here and realized there was no room for our engines. And I wanted to put way more engines on this than I originally have right here. So that's what this new design is doing. And this new design is similar to that of the Bellator. You can't really see it because of that dang sun glare. So let's fix that real quick so you guys can see what it is. What madness I have created today. So you see here we got this massive engine chunk on the back of this thing. It's kind of resembling the Bellator Super Star Destroyer. If you ever played Star Wars, what is that? Empire at War? And you ever played one of the mods, you get the Bellator at some point. The Bellator is actually really nice. So you see, I'm already figuring out where some guns can go, but I'm also figuring out some other stuff. The plan here is I don't want to do that thing that a lot of other people do. And I like the aesthetic of it, but it irritates me. And that is where in Space Engineers we have limitations on the lines we can make and the lines that we can put in places. And the plan here is to produce a massive gunship, basically, or a massive battleship that every every reduction to make it look longer than what the angle I have will help in will be look more like a natural progression. So it's going to be a thick boy here at the back, and then as we go forward, it's going to thin down considerably. And as it thins down, we're going to be adding more and more guns. I think I'm going to go with 6 turrets instead of just 5, because I can do that now with this new design. And if it works and I can design this stuff in such a way to where it will run over, how heavy do I think this will be when I'm done? Well, the way the ship is going to survive is most of the engine and really intense, really sensitive parts are traditionally going to be inside this chasm here. The plan is to produce varying layers of defensive armor, and then the very top of this just put light armor. So it's going to cut down on cost and cut down on weight. This is Dylan Myron asking this, by the way. And what this will do is it will cut down on the weight cost, and it will also cut down on uh, the build cost of this type of vessel. And it's a design concept I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is one of the things with American battleships. If you ever study up on American battleships, the U.S. when they made their first battleships, we were the first country to actually make purpose-built battleships. And when America built the first battleship, it went into the first battle and basically just took a beating. I think there was like 4 through deck shots that just punched, meaning that when the enemy hit them with an artillery shell or some type of big gun, it just went right clean through the hull, through the top, and straight down to the seafloor. And that's what ultimately stopped it. The thing still stayed afloat, and I think it fought for like 4 or 5 days in the harbor, just sitting in there, just pounding away at the enemy as they pounded back on it. It's basically a mobile fortress. And the reason for this was when the United States built it as a purpose-built warship. Originally, when you built a battleship, like a dreadnought, like an HMS Dreadnought, for instance, a lot of those ships were built. They were floating hotels that were then reconfigured into military vessels. So they dropped a whole bunch of guns on them and said, "All right, we have a battleship. We're gonna take it in." And they'd have guns just everywhere. They just line the entire decks with guns and just make a turret farm out of it. What the U.S. did was they figured out how can we put the biggest guns onto a ship, and then they designed the ship to be like a raft. So you had all this firepower on this ship that was also designed to be extremely buoyant. So it made it very difficult to sink. The idea here is we're going to up the ante on the armor around the sides on the skirt, but the top sections are not going to have a whole lot of armor on top. The plan is to keep the ship turned and mobile so that as it's flying through space, or falling, however you want to consider that, that as you're shooting, you're forced to fire at the thickest, hardest to hit sections of the ship, while those are also the areas that most of the firepower can go your direction. Meaning almost all the turrets can then turn your direction and start pounding away at you with relative ease. But yeah. Anyway, we got this nice giant thruster pack in here. 5 large thrusters with heavy armor wrapped around them. I may go through there and pull some of that and make it light armor, because I got this big heavy armored skirt around some of it. And I'll start taking some of this heavy armor out strategically and start replacing it with light armor on the top. So we have this unique design in heavy armor mixed with light armor, kind of like a composite. The kicker here now is I want to take the design that I've currently got at the moment. I'm trying to figure out just how much room I need for the guns, which is the big issue today. Because I need to figure out how tall some of this has to go. From the looks of things, it's going to have to get pretty dang tall. So we're just going to go in here real quick and just start throwing stuff on. Also, we may talk about other things today. Like the recent victory in Helldivers, for instance. Which was a solemn victory. That ended up humbling a conglomerate. And made them think twice about picking a fight with the people of Super Earth. We just basically just bodied an entire company. And made them think twice about, ever coming back and starting shit. Which they're probably sitting there now thinking, dear God, how do we implement all our nonsense without pissing that group of people off? And the answer is you probably aren't. Just let it go. Let us have our little games, and that's how I am. I'm like, leave me alone. Let me have my little games, and we'll get along just fine. But anywho, yeah, so we got these big, ginormous cannons here. And the plan is to start stair-stepping down based on, like, most calibers. I've got kind of the guns I want to use. So we got these monster cannons. And I want to put some here that are just high enough, because if they're one above, they don't look like they interfere with those guns too much. And we could install 1 or 2 of them right around in here with them down low. And then I can install another one kind of close up there. And that would give me something. But I want to pull these into positions where they won't start hurting each other. And then as we go on, we're going to start carving out and making bigger sections. And then I'm going to try and set this in a way to where it doesn't look like, oh, look, it's messed up on that. Sony gave up on Helldivers 2 and did instead Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer. Yeah, that's another thing they're going to find out is they're going to do the Ghost of... I've heard that now. They changed their deal that night. Ultimately, the entire reason for this whole nonsense, the whole reason we had to have all this stuff, was because a couple of retards who were politically driven wanted to start banning people. That was the whole reason we all went through that. It was, oh guys, we wanna go out there and like ban some people. It's like, why? Why do you need to ban people all of a sudden? Oh, we want to ban people, make the community safer. Turns out it didn't. It wasn't as safe as what they thought it was going to be. By the way, I am absolutely proud of this community. Thank you guys for going in there and just bodying the far out of a couple of retards. There. And that kind of gives you a good look right here. Look at this. Because we do have the guns, but it doesn't look like anything's in the way. And then I'm gonna carve and do some other crap with this. Now the next issue here is I gotta figure out how I'm gonna hook this up to where it gets real close to that one. If I recall, let me see. I'd love to get this a little closer. I could put the engines on it and probably move it closer, but then it'd be a bit of a nightmare. I do like this big chunk right here, and we're going to probably put that back into place, but I've got to figure out how to employ that over here. So as we start to get these big guns, we're going to have we're probably going to have like 3 back here and another 3 going forward. And that's just on the top, and then figure some other things out. Okay, let's read through some comments here. We got Jack Dawes again. Possibly trying to make numbers or of goals or set a precedent or whatever. No. I tell you what the problem is, and I said this in the live stream about it. I guarantee you what is it, Stellar Blade boycott is just hurting them right now. Because I guarantee that's what that was all over. It was because the Stellar Blade boycott is really hurting right now. The one thing that they attacked was the PlayStation accounts. They started attacking PlayStation's money. And anytime you attack a company's money, like it's the dude from what was it? Going to the Moon, Diamond Hands. I can't remember. GameStop. It was the GameStop stops thing where they were sitting over there, and the billionaire gets on stage, and is on CNN, and he goes, they're like, why are you so invested in all this? You know, talking to him, and he goes, and he starts breaking down in tears, crying, going, because I care. I'm like, yeah, we've officially made a billionaire cry, so nobody really gives a crap at this moment. Probably the last thing you want to do is show weakness to a group of people who already are pissed off at you. But ultimately what happened with that nonsense was some idiots on there wanted to ban people. Steam wouldn't let them ban. And so because Steam wouldn't let them ban, they started losing out on a whole lot of things. And of course, Steam also the thing that destroyed that made Sony cave was when Steam came out and Valve, and they just said, yeah, we're going to start giving refunds back because of this nonsense. And they completely broke at that point. Because when people start giving out refunds, you've kind of lost at that point. That's a straight up losing battle at that point. I think I got these guns a little too close. Or I don't have them close enough. I may have to move this one a little bit closer. Going on down here, what turret mod is this? This is the Northwind weapons mod. I'll show it to you here real quick. I have not done a video on this because it is so dang large. None of this is involved, and neither is that. Mostly this. You've got 300mm CWIS twin gun turrets. Those are amazing. Probably one of the best anti-missile systems in the game, or any mod. We've got 100mm gun turret, 203mm gun turrets, 300mm gun turret, 400mm gun turret, and the 500mm gun turrets, which we're using on this build. We got 30mm autocannon turrets, which these things you can plop them like right next to each other. 203mm single gun, BD 203mm howitzer turret. We've got a railgun turrets, some type of disco ball laser, as well as we've also got some other cool. We got a fixed 10 megajoule plasma cannon, small ship, either small or large ship railguns, and then these are small ship weapons. You can actually put one of these 30mm guns on that. I'll show you what that looks like down here. And take one of these monsters, like this thing here. Let me zero that out there. You can take one of these bad boys, just one gun, and put it onto a small craft and turn it into an A10, and it is a nightmare. It doesn't fire for very long. It overheats, which is a cool thing because it's kind of a balance effect. But once it overheats, it has to stop and cool down, and they are great for dealing with enemy turrets and things like that. I'm not going to turn this thing on because I don't have any engines to stop this thing from moving, and once these 205 turrets start going off, that's going to start moving the ship away, because this also has like physics where it actually pulls back. Did you say 300 millimeter? No, 30 millimeter CWIS. It's a 30 millimeter. There is a 300 millimeter cannon on here, I believe. Yeah, there's a 300 millimeter gun turret right here, and it's nowhere near as big. This used to be the biggest one, and then over the years, the guy that does this mod has upgraded it. The cool thing about this mod is, unlike other games where you just throw the turret on and it's like sitting right there on the surface, this mod actually has the carousel in it. So you've got to figure out how to incorporate this nightmare into your entire system. So you have to have a lot of room inside the ship. But 300 millimeter minigun, dear God, the heat buildup. You're building up with guns this big. You're building up so much heat. You're risking runaway shots when you're putting stuff in it. Jackdaw's Marxist activists. Yeah, that's what happened with Helldivers. They wanted to go in, and they claim for like safer spaces. It's like, it's PC, you retards. It's never going to be safe. Not to y'all standards. It'll never be safe. Like, it's safe to my standards. I like the way the games work on here when you're playing online. But I'm despise when they make weird changes to the games and everything. Like, the reason why COD is getting so bad is because of people like that, where they go, "Oh, we want to do this for your protection," and it's like, no, that's not why we're doing this. You wanna do your own thing, and I don't want to be a part of it. But ultimately, that's what it was all over. It was not much of Sony, which was kind of surprising, because everything I'm seeing shows it was more of, this was a contract thing with Helldivers, and they were going to do it, but it didn't work very well. And then when they got involved, I may pull this turret back, actually, and just slap another CWIS where that thing's at. That'd be fun. By the way, the problem with it was they smacked they went in there, and Sony had decided that the PSN account was supposed to happen. That was already a thing. And what ultimately happened was it didn't work. So Sony and them, they just pulled back and said, okay, look, it's not going to work. We really want to get this game going. Sony, I don't believe, realized how big the game was going to get. And so they just backed off and said, no, it was just, don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal. And it ended up becoming a lot bigger deal. And then, like most Karens, they come in, they're like, oh my gosh, think of all the kids that are going to be exposed to, I don't know, actual adult conversations. Which is not a bad thing for a kid to get exposed to, is an adult conversation. That way they know how to act as an adult. You learn stuff when you do that. So then Sony was like, oh, we need to do something about this. And so Sony tried to fix it by doing some other stuff. Or by doing the whole PSN sign-in thing. And really, Sony had forgotten about it. I think they were probably making enough money. They just didn't care. But then, if you've seen stuff like I've seen, I don't talk a whole lot of politics on here. Okay, so if you've seen the stuff, y'all, if any of y'all have been watching gaming, you've been watching all the news around stuff. If you've seen the Stellar Blade debacle and all that nonsense, you know what I'm talking about. Some moral busybody comes in there and says, we need to make this safer, and then they end up making things worse. Like, whoops. And I'm not a. Here's the thing. I'm not a fan of censorship. I really despise it. In my opinion, there is no reason for it. If you have to tell some, it's kind of like, what was his name? Tyrion Lannister. If you have to cut a man's tongue out, you're not proving that he's wrong. You're just proving you're afraid of what he's going to say. If you're worried about people getting onto a game and saying stuff, that's probably a you problem, not an us problem. Let's see. I think I can slap one more of those turrets on and make it a roundabout kind of turret system. I'll also have to stretch them out a bit more. But yeah. That's where a lot of things that's where that whole nonsense just started. Because they're sitting up there like, oh, we have to do something, think of the children. And it's like, we don't have to think of the children. Y'all just have to leave it alone. That's it. And I think what happened was Sony was just, I mean, literally it was just Sony walked up to PC players after letting us play a game for almost 3 or 4 months and said, okay, we own your asses now. And the response from the entire PC gaming community was, if you want war, we will give you war. And Sony got an ass whooping, and they come back like, you know what? Maybe this wasn't as good an idea as we thought it was. In my opinion, they should fire whoever came up with that idea, because it was a bullcrap idea. It should never have come to the light of day. Okay, we can probably turn that into a whole platform right there. Yeah, this thing's going to be eating through ammo. I'm going to have to put some major... Well, I can put some cargo containers underneath each one of these so I can get some stuff. It's just figuring out how to make it all work. So anyway, I got my engines figured out. Let's keep going through here. Another trick I found for these big ships is to build custom turrets with the Northwind Weapons 250 millimeter railguns. They are very accurate at long ranges and use the custom turret controller. Yeah, they are. That's a faster moving projectile than the one in the vanilla one that you're getting. It actually, I don't know how fast the vanilla one moves, but it's significantly slower. Almost noticeably slower. Meaning they have a 10-kilometer AI firing range. Yeah. Zuju, thank you. You're welcome. Like I said, this mod works really good when you put weapon core with it. If you get the weapon core mod going, it works really good. It is amazing because then you can take like these big guns and you can do crazy. I've done a video on this on my channel where I show like all the crazy stuff you can do with the big guns, where you put a bunch of big guns up and you can fire each gun individually from each turret. So you can have each gun cycle through their rounds, or you can have each gun fire in turn until they each run out of ammunition, and you can just make the reload take forever. You can actually override the reload and have like probably not five, probably like 2 or 3 minutes of reload time before your next volley is going towards them. You can also set it to paint. So like here, let me show you this one. If I've still got it set up on here, there's like a manual mode. Just watch this. This is what's so freaky about this thing. Let's see. Is it 3? Yeah, manual. You can see all the guns now turning. They will turn to whatever I'm pointing at. So say I want to point this way. Let's say I want to go high angle. See the guns coming up there. It's like we can turn these bad boys and make them go wherever we want. Also fire them. These are the Casablan shells. Whoops. Oh, we had everything loaded up at that point. Well, that's not good. Light show, everyone. Might want some shades. I think this thing has a bad habit. The Casablan shells have like a bad habit. I want to put these on AI shoot because you put them on AI shoot, they'll fire their rounds. Okay, let's see. Let's put it back on auto. Manual, painter, auto. should do it. Okay. There we go. We're going back to system. I gotta figure out some programming there and get that all set up. But right now, most of the weaponry on here is set to repel mode. So I'll just shoot at things and make sure it doesn't come near us. That guy there got experimented on with the super laser, so I smacked him with it. Another thing is I'm gonna put the super laser kind of high up, and then just have this kind of trench coming off of it, where the super laser will just right off the top of it and just tear into things like it's nothing. Yeah, the super laser is nuts. Let's see, going through here. That would be something. Yeah, it would. Jackdaw's Marxist. Jackdaw's James Lindsay is an invaluable, absolutely invaluable source of information on translating and understanding commie stuff. Yeah. And to be clear, it's not political, it's imperative and in your face in every direction. That's the thing, man. It's like you're not allowed to get away from it. I mean, if you have to, this is what a pastor of mine said. If you have to go harass lost people to get them to be saved, you're not doing a very good job at witnessing. Okay, and that's from a Christian perspective. A lot of people don't understand that. You can't just go running into a restaurant screaming at someone you're going to go to hell. That doesn't work. That never works. You have to go in there. There's a reason why Jesus said love them. And that's the something that communists can't do. The other thing also is the way the communism is set up right now, there is no salvation in their nonsense. If you ever watch how that stuff goes down, there is no salvation to it whatsoever. You have a better chance of appeasing you have a better chance of blaspheming God and desecrating a church and finding forgiveness than you do saying the wrong thing to a communist right now. Because at the very least, the Christian will forgive you. The communist will not. And that's the thing that I think is ultimately going to end this nonsense. We're eventually going to get to a golden age of I am still in that mode of where I'm saying we're going to get to a golden age of entertainment at some point in time, because what's going to happen is these people are going to overstay their welcome. They're going to get pushed out, and what they've basically done is they've destroyed an industry that used to be very tight knit. Now the technology is opening up. Take video games, for instance. I've been playing around with Unreal Engine, and I'm like, frick, anybody could build a game at this rate. And the way the Unreal Engine works and everything else, it's just amazing how effective that system is at letting you make a game. I was telling someone else about it once. I said, it's like wiring a house, dude. And they asked me, how difficult is it to make a game on there? And I said, it's like literally wiring a house. That's it. That's all you got to do. You just got to know how to wire a house. That's all. Once you know that, you can make a video game. Honestly, I would say go in there and try it, because the blueprint system is amazing. That's what they made Palmon with. Was the blueprint system. They were like a lot of y'all probably played Palmon. That's how they made a lot of the PAL systems and all that nonsense work. They basically went in there and they just started taking they originally they were doing it on Unity, and I think they stopped Unity because Unity did something that pissed off the entire community. I think they wanted money. If you made over a certain amount of money, I think they started asking for cash, and everyone was like, no, no. This has just been, it's kind of weird, because this decade that we're in right now is kind of the decade of just companies understanding how much power their customer base has. Like Bud Light has taken a hit, did something that people didn't like, that they thought everyone will love this. They didn't. They didn't. And I'm not saying whether what you do is good or bad. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying people just walked in and said, no, we're not going to do this shit. We don't want to mess with this. We don't want to even try this nonsense. We don't want to see it anymore. And ultimately, they started beating the crap out of them. Jack Dawes, essentially everything you like and care about has to be destroyed so someone else can take its place that they control. The most important thing you need to remember is when you have the thought, oh, I don't want to be political, they will not leave you alone. no matter where you go or what you do, they will come. Yeah, I'll give you a prime example of that. There's a movie quote from Maverick with Mel Gibson, and he's out there in the field, like I think he's at Yosemite with a bunch of Native Americans. He's hooked up with them. He's conned a sheriff who's really his dad, and he's conned a sheriff and this other con woman into believing he's going in there to petition for their immediate release, petition for their safe passage, but he's got to go with them and risk like losing his hand. It's all bullshit. They're not going to cut his hand off. It turns out him and the Native American are both snakes. The whole movie is about con men basically in the 1800s. So anyway, he gets done. And he's out there and he's looking in the fields and he looks around. He looks at Yosemite and he looks in the fields. He looks at all the trees and he goes, "Damn, you people sure do pick a hell of a good place to live." Native American's sitting there and he's weaving a basket or doing something. He goes, "Yes, but if you white men don't leave me alone, the next place I'm going is a stinky piece of swamp ground, and then maybe you will leave me the hell alone." Finally, it's like you almost have to create. I've said this. You almost have to create an environment so toxic that they can't exist in it. Kind of like what is it? Kind of like how bacteria lives in sulfuric acid. That's about what's going to have to happen. You're going to have to create an environment that's so caustic towards these commie idiots that they just can't operate in there. Be as offensive as possible. I mean that's where I think entertainment's going, because that's what it did the last time we had this, like in the 90s when everything was like amazing. That's why everybody talks about the 90s, because the 90s wasn't necessarily, oh, entertainment is amazing. We had like the greatest entertainment. We didn't have the greatest entertainment. What we had was entertainment that wasn't being controlled by a bunch of, like before it was the conservatives that were the Puritans. Now it's the people on the far left of the argument that are now the Puritans. They're the ones, like, it's amazing the arguments are the same, because now it's like, hey, you're not allowed to look at tits anymore. Oh, are you looking at a Playboy? Oh, that's bad. It's before it was the conservatives coming in there slapping you over the head with the Bible and telling you, no, you shouldn't look at a woman's tits. You shouldn't objectify a woman. Now it's the frickin' lefties who back then were like all peace, love, and happiness. Now they're like, no, 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 you can't be doing this stuff. It's like, come on, I thought you were supposed to be the cool one here. That was a thing. It's nightmarish that what's going on. It's sad. It's sad. And personally, that's why I play Space Engineers, because this is the one of the few games where that's not a big deal anymore. Like, you don't have to worry about it. It's just, hey, if you want to be good at this, hey, just build a ship. Just build a ship and go have some fun. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do this next one. I've got 3 big turrets right here, along with these 2 big, even bigger turrets. And then I just got to figure out how to put it all together. I know I've been kind of sitting here kind of harping on politics, and we all don't like politics. We know how politics. I hate politics. I could live my life perfectly without politics. But the problem is, like Jackdaw says, it's reaching a point where you just cannot get away from it. And I wish you could. Because here's the thing, I know people. This is why I never got mad at people who were doing D&D or anything. Even though I had family members saying it, they were like, oh, it's the devil and everything else. I'm like, if it was, it would have way more power than that. But I remember people who lived in a shell, and that's how they got out. I knew people who were so depressed about who they were mentally that they just I worried about them all the time, because I was like, at some point in time, these poor people someone was going to commit suicide. I just knew that was going to happen. And then later on, they come out and they're like, "Hey, I'm doing great." And I'm like, "Oh man, you look good. You look great. What happened?" And one of my buddies, he goes, "Yeah, I found this D&D group, man. They were really nice, and we just hit it off and started doing stuff." And he hopped into a D&D group, and that helped out. Look, if you find therapy, you find therapy. That's how it works. You find therapy in anything. Now, at the flip side, you got to make sure whatever therapy you're getting is healthy. Okay, you can find therapy in porn. It just doesn't mean it's healthy. I don't know why I monetized this channel all of a sudden because I don't think I'm ever going to get monetization at the topics that I talk about sometimes. But it's just the reason I'm even talking about this now is because of the whole nonsense that happened. And anyway, going back on here, the most important thing you need to anyway that's it. Jack Dawes, just be safe. Just to be safe. Yeah, just to be safe. That's what it is. You just got to be safe. But the thing is, it's just I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in the COD. Like one of the first games I got on PlayStation 3. I played PlayStation for a long time. First game I got on PlayStation 3 was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That was it. And when I got in there and got to playing that, the lobbies were toxic. That was back when I was a kid. Like we went to war with Iraq and all this nonsense. And I was playing that game. My cousin came over and played it because his mom and dad, they didn't let him have much of nothing. Of course, he lived out in the middle of nowhere. He didn't have internet access. I was a kid that had internet access in the family. So I was like, "Hey man, yeah, just come on over. We'll play something fun." But the thing was, back then, games were an escape, and that's what they're supposed to be. You're supposed to get away from everybody or whatever is bothering you. And then you got people that they don't want you to get away. They want you to sit there, suffer, and I kind of want to say it's more of a because usually the people that talk about that stuff constantly, that are always into politics, they're miserable. They are miserable all the time because here's the reason why. I'm not saying they're miserable people. I'm not saying they're mean people. If you keep taking on there's a saying by Bruce Lee, do not tell yourself lies. Watch what you speak to yourself because your words are like magic spells and it will curse you or bless you. And what that means is if you are constantly sitting there worrying about problems that you cannot control by yourself, they are going to eat you alive. You're going to be sitting there and you're going to be miserable having to deal with that all the time. It is going to be a miserable existence because you're never seeing a good time of it. It's the problem with politics. It's like I have the reason, like I said, I get to video games because I'm like, I come in here, sit down and chill, and I'm not thinking about the world all the time. The world is not, that's not something we're worrying about right now. I have a ship to build. I have this to do. I have to mine that. It gives my brain a moment to tone down what's going on in the outside world and work on this. If you concentrate on that stuff too much, it will destroy you mentally over time. Because what you're doing is you're constantly just leveling stress and stress and stress and stress onto yourself. My mom, big into TikTok right now, and I finally had to convince her to take a break from it because she was just losing her mind dealing with like all the problems that she was seeing. I said, "Mom, you got to stop." And she's like, "But," I said, "No. I said, "You're worrying about things that are outside your control." I said, "You're worrying about things that are outside my control." I said, you can't fix everyone's problems. Your best bet is to sit back. The world, you can give your input, but ultimately it's going to be a community effort to fix those problems. You're not going to be the Superman that goes in there and just fixes it. You can't just lift the car. We're not superheroes. What that means is we have to get in there and we all have to lift the car. If someone's trapped under a vehicle or under burning or under debris or something, we all have to work to lift it. We're all going to have to collectively do that to lift people up. And if you keep worrying about the world's problems, like there's shit I could worry about all day long. Like I'm big into guns. I could worry about every single thing the ATF does, and trust me, I do sometimes. And then I have to stop for a minute. I'm like, okay, I'm not in control of that right now. I can put my opinion out there. Hopefully it changes enough people's minds that, we go the other direction. But I can't make people do stuff. That's not possible. You cannot take an animal or a person and train them like a dog. It doesn't work that way. It's never worked. Trust me. If I could train people like dogs, I'd have more people paying me money every single day. That'd be the first thing. That'd be the first thing we would do. I would sit there and be like, okay, if I can control people, I would have them pay me every day, and then we go from there. Not saying I'd be a horrible person about it, but yeah, you know, free money's free money. Well, there. Do not be a coward now. You have to stand up to this uncomfortable stuff, but if you want to stay sane, you have to be kind of glib and dismissive. I'm not sure what glib is. Maybe you can put it in there. Maybe a typo. Tall geese, lies, hell yar, but fun. We need to escape or go brain dead. Yeah, that's the thing. Escapism keeps you from losing your mind. That's why back in the day people were writing just the weirdest shit. If you look up like, well, I mean, take into consideration, um, what was it? The guy that inspired Stan Lee, Jules Verne. Jules Verne inspired Stan Lee on, and you can see it in the characters that he wrote and he created in Marvel. Jules Verne inspired him to make all kinds of cool characters, like all kinds of cool characters. And the thing is, he was a big he was a fan of Jules Verne. Look at what Jules Verne wrote about. He wrote about submarines in under the water. He wrote about going to the center of the frickin' earth. That's anime. If you stop and think about it, anime is the big creative point because nobody's worried about insulting anybody or hurting anyone's feelings. That's the thing. It's working. And the thing that bothers me though about this whole Helldivers thing is I can tell you what's about to happen. And every one of you is going to look at me and go, no, no, we refuse to believe this will happen. Now, the big fight is not whether PlayStation will try this again. The big fear that all of us should have is what are these retards going to do next to take over Steam? Because that's where they're going to go next. They did this thing with PlayStation because they knew PlayStation would cave. Then they got smacked by the Helldivers community and Steam. And Steam, like I said, was the ultimate deciding factor in that little fight. And now you know they're all just sitting there going, okay, so we lost to Steam. How do we take over Steam? Because they're doing it with anime. Anime was the same way. Anime, they were losing their anime. They were getting their lunch eaten by anime, and now they are making pushes into anime now, trying to take control of anime. And all of us just looking at anime like, y'all don't want to do this. Y'all do. If you want money, you do not want to do this. And it is just a nightmare scenario. That's kind of a nightmare scenario in its own right. But like I said, it's entertainment. You have to have it. But we've got people who really, I would say, don't understand how entertainment works. Or at least they don't want to know how it works. They want to go in, control the whole thing, tell you how, as I say in my neck of the woods, how the cow ate the cabbage. Right now I'm just doing random shit at the moment on here. Sorry for that. Just trying to see how I can get all my shapes in here. Make sure I can build all that and make it all work. That's the thing about big ships, man. You got to take it bite at a time, bite at a time. And I'm bouncing all over the place way too much. Let's see. So we got these big guns here. I'm thinking we can line a few guns here. Possibly. And maybe cut this down again. I need to really finish up these. Figure out where my where all my stuff is going to go. I probably need to finish up these turrets and make them look good. Okay, we'll do that. And then another thing I need to do is I need to round this baby up here. So I probably need to finish this, actually. That may be why I was doing it. I just forgot. But yeah, it's like The thing I like, everyone is sitting back watching, and you always hear that one saying, just wait till the people who just want to be left alone are not left alone. And that is the truth, because that's what happened with Helldivers. The people who just want to be left alone were not left alone, and they basically went ham on them. Jack Dawes, it's going to be soon. The only place you can escape is zero narrative stuff like SE, and really only single player. Gib, comedic, uncaring, sarcastic, passive. It is an mocking, passive. It's an odd word. Well, I learned a new one today. Glib. All right, glib. That's what it is. Well, I learned a new one, so I mean that's good. I'm learning new stuff today. I'm not an old dog that can't learn new stuff. But yeah, that's what happened with the whole Helldiver. And here's the thing. I'll be honest. Since they've backtracked on all that, I went and I stopped my refund and re-downloaded the game and played a bit this morning. Now I haven't changed my deal because I haven't changed my one deal because I'm like I don't know, because there's some things that have to be done. One of those is let's see, what did I do there? One of the things that I'm having difficulty with right now is you have all these people that can't play Helldivers at the moment, and they need to be able to play. Wait, how did I do that rounded nonsense over here? I'm pretty sure I did something. How do I do that? Oh, yeah, that's easy. Yeah, I can do that again. There we go. We'll do that too. Thank God for mirror mode. It's cutting most of my job in half on this. But yeah, I went and got Helldivers back up. I started playing again. I started just messing around, getting stuff done, doing my thing like I normally do. Drop in, help some people out as long as I can. Notice I get kicked a lot easier though, so that's not a good thing. Let's see. We're gonna go just on the side there. We're not gonna fully round that out. And I probably need to figure this one out as well. So we'll set that there. And we'll set that there. That's the thing about this. You have to kind of build upward, which is oh so fun. But then I know where all these guns go and where to stick them at. Can we get a zoom out of this building? Oh, zoom out? Oh, yeah. You want to see what we're working on? Yeah, we're building a big ship. I'm just working on part of it. That's the original design, but then you notice the back section of the ship is just a bit too... The engines were just way too big for what I wanted. It didn't look right. So I got new engine systems built. I started with the engines first. And this is what we ended up with. We ended up with this nice 5-thruster build right here. And I've got a set of ions. And if y'all know my tricks on building durable ships, I am probably going to build my one hydrogen defense system that I normally do, where the hydrogen tanks are the small tanks. And what that does is it makes it very difficult to just blow up a tank and take the whole system down. So I'll have probably like a series of central lines going through, and then those will connect up to the actual tanks themselves. And so for each thruster, I'm probably going to be able to put at least one tank in there. And I've done this before, and durability wise, when the ship gets shot, you see a bunch of explosions. It looks fantastic. It looks like everything's going to catastrophic failure. But then you realize, oh no, it's not gone to hell. It just looks like it is. And there's a trick to the small hydrogen tanks. If you build them properly and you put something in between that doesn't deform, like a conveyor or a armor block, the resulting explosion will only go one block over in damage. That's the cool thing. Also, is the frame rate so low because of the stream is, or your PC is on its knees? I'm in Missouri, and last night a lot of people got hit by tornadoes, so the network is really stressed right now. uh, a lot of stuff got blown up because Godzilla decided to take a vacation over here, and that's what happens when you're in Missouri. Godzilla just comes in and just f's around whenever he wants, and you got to deal with it. It's like, oh no, this guy again. That's why I tell people when everyone, I every so often I have someone ask me, "What is it like living in tornado country?" I'm like, it's the closest you can get to a Godzilla movie. Trust me. You've never seen anything. I have people from Florida who say that tornadoes are more terrifying than hurricanes if you can figure that one. And my wife said this very affectionately. She said, "Yes," she said they are more terrifying than hurricanes. I said, well, why is that? She said because she said a hurricane's like a natural disaster. She said it's if you're gonna if you're going to get into a major issue on there. Actually, I tell you what, I wonder if I could fix. Now this is going to lower the quality. Maybe I will have to go in. Let's see what that does. Just real quick. All right, let me see what that did to my. Okay, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. I know things. I know things are wonky at the moment. Give me a sec here. But I lowered the one deal. I usually use that for higher rate so I can record good. All right, come on, fit in the screen. There we go. How's that? Maybe that'll move a little quicker and easier. I kind of lowered the thing down a bit. It seems to help on my end. It's not as sharp, but maybe it'll help you guys out because we are dealing with technical issues. They're not entirely my fault, but I'll try to fix them as best I can. Just give me time. Just give me time. Nope. Like that. And let's see, how do I want to do that? I wanted to bring this in a certain way. Need to fix that there at number 3. Okay, how am I going to go that direction? Let's see, number 5. Let's try this. See if we can get that. Yeah, what was I talking about? I just had to solve a problem, and then I forgot what I was doing. It's really nice block work on those engines. Yeah, I did that, and I was like, huh, this is cool. And then I realized, if you ever see like this, just the engine by itself, it's down here. It's slowly floating away. But this is what I did with the engine. I just basically covered up the whole deal and then put a small fin system on the back of it. And it's just a single point on a singular engine. And then I got to looking at it later and I thought, huh, Bronzy is going to want to come on here. He's going to see these at some point. And then he's going to say, hey, Badger, I want to build a ship, make it all black, have 2 of those engines and one big long piece in the middle and call it the BBC. I'm gonna, and my demented self's gonna go like, okay, I hear you, Bronzy, let's do it. Now, if we just had the perfect opponent that would just like mess with them to use it on. Let's see. I'm gonna pull this maneuver here. We're gonna do what's called a pro builder move. I need to figure out. living in Tennessee, we had a tornado in 2006 that like leveled several neighborhoods. Yeah, my sister lives in Kansas City. They have a tornado almost every month this time of the year. Joplin, Missouri. Look up the destruction of Joplin, Missouri. It looks like Godzilla just walked through it. A lot of people on the east and west coast, y'all don't know how absolutely terrifying those things are. And everybody that I talk to, they're like, I don't see how bad they are, and then they're in one. But my wife, her analogy of tornadoes was just cute. She was sitting there, and we were talking about it, and I said, so what's the difference between a tornado and like a hurricane? She said, yeah, hurricanes, you know they're coming, you have time to get out of the way. She said, she said it's more like a natural disaster. You can get away from it if you want to. She said a tornado, on the other hand, is like getting mugged in Chicago. One minute you're walking down the street, you're perfectly happy, nothing is going on. Next thing you know, you're in the middle of the road, your wallet's gone, you're beat to hell, you're missing your pants, your shoes are gone, and all you know is everyone's walking up to you asking, "Are you fine?" She said it's not a fun. She said she's seen plenty of people get into tornadoes, and she said it doesn't look like a very fun experience. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right about that one. I'm not gonna lie, she's probably right about that. Let's just turn this into. I'm gonna have like an open area right here, but F it, I'll make it work. Oh shit, I may have to go back to work now. Hang on. And unfortunately, folks, that is going to be probably the end of this stream because that's the boss. He's ready to go back to work. He took off to a town. He's been trying to get a door fixed all morning long. It's been hilarious. My boss can barely hear, so that creates its own issues. And then the poor woman on the other side. Hold up now. How did I do that? Oh, this is going to be an interesting fix. Huh. Let's see if we can fix that here real quick before I go. But he's trying to talk to this poor lady on the other end who can barely speak English. I feel bad for her. And she's trying to convince him that there's an installation issue, and he's trying to convince her that there was no installation issue because he installed it correctly. There we go. We fixed that one real quick. See? It's like Bob Ross says. We don't make mistakes, just happy accidents. That happens to be the happy accident that makes everything work out perfectly. And then I don't know how we're going to do the rest of this, but we're going to tie this into the ship there. And then I also got to tie this section into the ship as well. So that'll be probably a next time thing. As we're adding guns to this thing, eventually I'm going to have to build barracks in this monster and all that good stuff. I'm going to have to figure out how to put all that in there and then add an awesome looking engine room. But the engine room should be pretty easy because I have the room right now that I normally have never had when building a ship. Most of my ships are built kind of small. This is the one where I've got enough room here that with just this 3x3 area, I could build a pretty cool reactor room. No issue. I did have a moment of sheer insanity when I was building this because I was like, these engines are kind of big. I don't know if these big guns are going to look as impressive on this. Maybe I ought to build bigger guns. And I had the idea of taking that super laser component I had down there and making a triple barreled turret with those things and putting like 5 of them on this sucker and then just adding a whole bunch of big stuff. As Jackdaw says, this seems a bit Big, yeah. I'm compromising right now with this one because things were getting kind of massive at one point. But yeah, you can see the main guns here. If I can, we're going to have three main turrets in the front, two in the back, and then we're going to have a large lifted area right here that's going to have some guns and stuff. But it's basically going to be a conference room slash bridge slash ready room or strategy area. Look, just a big giant ship zone right here. So we have a bunch of stuff, and then start stair stepping down the big guns till they're right on top of the super laser, and then we're gonna have a big spinal piece that comes off with the super laser right about in here, and it's gonna have a nice little trench where the laser can shoot out of it, and then we're gonna just line this thing with guns and weapons, and if I can, I'll keep stair stepping this system down because I need to take this section here as big as it is. I need to start bringing it down and adding guns. It's going to have more guns pointing this direction forward than we have pointing back, kind of like a Star Destroyer. Like I said, if you want to look up kind of where I'm going with this, there is a starship called the Bellator in Star Wars. Look up Star Wars Bellator Super Star Destroyer, and you'll see a lot of the inspiration that I use, especially for the engines back here. You can see the Bellator in the engine block back here with all the engine components and everything else. Just these large caliber engine coils with this big skirt over the top. Now with the Bellator, there should be a smaller one right here, but I didn't put that in. And then we got these smaller ion engines in the bottom. And then I still got to figure out how to go up and down with this stupid thing. Because somewhere along the line, I got to put some downward thrusters and I got to put some upward thrusters. And then I got to figure out how to reduce as much weight as possible off this thing so it doesn't become so big. And I'm probably going to add shields to it. And I know how to build the shield big enough and wide enough that it'll cover the whole ship. And we'll have jump drives, probably deuterium reactor. Let's pull that sun around here so y'all can see some more cool. See that? There we go. That's much better. Much, much better. But yeah, that's going to be this monstrosity. This is going to be the Missouri. It's a ship I've been trying to get on for a long time. And like I said, I want that drop system, those layers, to not look so forced. You know, you get that like jagged look at the bottom when you go from one angle and you're trying to extend the angles more than what you got. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and do some trickery, as we're going to call it, and make the angles look even better than they were before. I might add some more shelves and whatnot and just try to manipulate the shape so that everything flows in one direction, but it doesn't look like it's forced to go in that direction. And then we'll have this monster just roaming around the galaxy. This will be something I'll have to build in survival at some point. But my God, it's going to be massive. This is going to be a massive monster ship that is just going to rip apart anything that gets too close to it. But anyway, folks, I am bad. Well, we're going to pull back here. You can see just how big this sucker is. It's not even the size of the original design that I got. And this is going to be far wider, far bigger, and much, much thicker. But yeah, we're going to have this in the IWL. I'm going to put the IWL colors on it somehow. I may just do the top decks. I'll do something with the decks. I'll either do all of the armored sections in black and then do the top white with some yellow streaks on it or something else. I don't know. But yeah, this is going to be the IWL Missouri. And I'll put it up on the workshop. The only mod you're going to need with this is Northwind. And maybe the deuterium reactor and the force fields. So it's like, this is a mod if you're going to use, it's a build if you're going to use like mods and stuff. I've got stuff on there that I'm fixing to put up that doesn't require any mods at all. The APC is one of them. I've got to finish that thing up at some point, get all the stuff finished and everything. Platypus eggs. Yeah, it's meant to be very big, or meant to be very large. Actually, what is the intended size for this build? And yeah, just like a big superstructure. So this is going to be that big honking heavy ship that you show up with and just start really bashing the crap out of your enemy with. So the guns that we can put on here, these are the big ones. The ones that we can put on that I can squeeze in are all these little guns here. And these are going to be good point defense guns. These are going to be good close range battering guns. And then we have these medium range cannons doubled up with a couple of CWIS guns out here. And then we're going to have this giant monster, which is this big, humongous super laser, which I showed my kid this and she lost her mind. She was like, "Dad, that is so cool." I shot a ship somewhere along in here. Yeah, there it is. It's over that way. It's flaming and been smoking that direction, slowly going that way adrift. And yeah, we killed it with this thing, but it has no rotors or anything. I have figured out a trick though with the what is it, gyroscopes. If you can get them more to center mass, that they will work a lot better at center mass of the ship than they do anywhere else. But anyway, yeah, we got to tie all this together, make it look like it all works together as one piece. And then, like I said before, the way this ship is going to work is as you are moving towards it, firing, most of the heavy armor is going to be deflecting the rounds away from the ship with probably light armor on top. We'll probably give it like a double layer of heavy armor and then light armor at the top. That way we've still got a fast ship that can do some damage, but it doesn't have to worry about, it doesn't have to juke or jerk or too much stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, unfortunately, guys, I have to leave you. Gotta work. I don't make millions of dollars at YouTube. Not yet, at least. But anyway, working on the YouTube monetization. I am, for those of you that are wanting to know about that, by the way, I am now approved for monetization and approved for partnership. I've just got to work on some tax stuff. That's the only thing I got to do right now. So once I get the tax stuff done, super chats will be open. I plan on doing a super chat system so y'all can just have fun, talk to me in super chats. And then there might be commercials now. I'll put like one at the front